On Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
Talking Lifestyle is about finance and food, a bit of travel, gardening, DIY, technology and health, and of course Tuesday nights we talk about relationships. Now, whether you're looking for love or maybe you're happily married, there's something always here for you though. Relationships can happen romantically, they can have romance with friends. I mean, suddenly friends turn into lovers. Maybe they're colleagues at work that suddenly turn into lovers. I don't know. How do we make those relationships work, though? Are you having difficulties with somebody right now and you need advice? Well, I'm joined with relationships counsellor Melissa Ferrari each and every Tuesday night to talk about relationships. Melissa, good evening. Happy New Year.
Good evening, David. I'm so excited to be here for this new year of 2017.
Yeah, 17. 2017. It's just getting away, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is.
Unbelievable. It just seems like yesterday we were looking at the new millennium.
That's
You
right.
know, 1999, we're all partying like it was. And then 2000. And just now, 2017. It's just getting away.
Depends on how you party, hey?
Yeah. How about relationships in 2017? What do you think are going to be the big things this year? Is chivalry dead? Is chivalry finally dead? Or do you think it may make a comeback much like voguing?
Well, everything seems to be recycling, doesn't it? And coming back into vogue and becoming popular again.
Yes.
And really, it depends on who you talk to around that kind of, is chivalry dead? I don't think it's dead. I know a lot of the men that I come across are very, very much into being there for their partner in a way that's quite, exhibiting those lovely qualities.
I'd like to hear from the girls tonight. I wonder.
I would too.
Yeah, dial the number, okay, 13 12 83. Tell us tonight, is chivalry dead? Does your fella get it? Does he open the door for you, but does he do more? I mean, that's nice. A little rose once a week maybe, or maybe twice a week, a rose. 13 12 83, is chivalry dead? Love to know tonight. Is romance still in the air, do you think, Melissa?
Yes, absolutely. Romance just looks different nowadays.
What does it look like now? It's like on...
Romance used to be more about, like going out to dinner, which it still is, and people do things like that, and they enjoy
they
that.
tend to go head down straight into the phone.
Well, that's right.
Or take
That's
photos
right.
of the food.
And so I think romance nowadays has taken on something a little bit more special. And what I find is that people are learning more to attune to what their partners actually want. It's not a universal kind of, we just have to be romantic in this particular kind of way.
It's about attuning.
It is. And I think that this new way of being in the world, how we can be more liberated and we can choose to do things differently, really does open up a great space for relationships to do it however you want.
Okay. Well, do you need help? 13 12 83. Melissa is here, joins me tonight and each and every Tuesday night, and a very special program on the way. You're attuned to Stan Tatkin, isn't it? Stan Tatkin's from Los Angeles.
That's right.
But he's also well known around the world for his understanding of couple therapy.
He developed the approach that's called the psychobiological approach to couple therapy. And he has really made it quite revolutionary in terms of what we understand more. And the beauty of what he's brought in is a lot more understanding about the brain in love and how really we are primed for war. We're primed to fight. That's the more primitive experience that we have. And so tonight we have him on the show to talk a lot about those more primitive kind of experiences and how to understand that more in relationship. And I'm looking very, very forward to it.
Yeah, okay. I know he's one of your heroes, isn't he?
He is absolutely my biggest hero, I would say. I train with him. I've gone to Canada. I've gone to Los Angeles to train with him because I've followed him around because what he really brings is something quite special, particularly to a couple therapist like me that's on the constant search on what works.
All right, Stan Tatkin shortly, and that primeval sort of brain, yes? How do we sort of are we still just animals, basically?
Yes.
Deep down, yeah?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are. And you can see that in all our little characteristics and the things that we do that can be quite off-putting to each other.
Well,
and
we were talking about partying when it's 1999. I mean, everybody going to nightclubs and dancing around. You're sort of thinking, we haven't moved much out of the jungles, have we? Sort of
That's
dancing around to show your love for each other, aren't
bit
you?
of jungle activity.
That's right. Some boys, they don't dance at all, and probably wise move. It's sort of jungle activity in the corner in the nightclub.
All by themselves.
Or by them. Well, that's usually electronic music that you do that to. But we digress. Romance as well. We were talking about that. We've got plenty of romance on the program tonight, speaking to quite a few special guests about romance and mindfulness in relationships.
Yes, we're looking forward to
Mindfulness.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So tonight we're going to be covering more of that because we have done that previously on the show. And I think with mindfulness, it can be a throw around kind of word, but it's more about understanding what it really means. Because if you can bring mindfulness to your relationship, it can be very, very enriching.
All right. And sexual intimacy we'll talk about a little later in the program as well. Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that, David.
All right, 13 12 83, the telephone number. These days, more and more people seeing counsellors to keep their unions staying happy and buzzing along. I mean, I talk about it all the time. If the car is making a noise under the engine, well, you go and see a mechanic, don't you? You need the piping fixed, you go and see a plumber. You've got a bit of a crook knee, a dicky knee, you go and see the doctor, don't you? So why not seek out the advice from Melissa about the most important thing in your life, your relationships? So how are things over Christmas? All good? How did families cope? I'd like to know on 13 12 83 how you coped in your relationship. It's a tough time.
It's a very tough time. It can stir up quite a lot for many people. Some people experience Christmas as a really good thing, but for others it can really bring, it's one of the highest. January is the highest that we receive a lot of calls as couple therapists for people booking in because there's many reasons. Sometimes people have put it off until we're going to leave it till after Christmas, or things, have stirred up over that time. So it's a very, very big month.
Mostly we spend time at work, don't we? So when we are actually put together over Christmas holidays, or we're together in the car for a length of time driving up to Nan's or
Yeah.
Auntie Joe's,
we have to deal with each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did yours go okay?
Yeah, I had a lovely Christmas. I
That's
had
nice.
my family. We all went out on Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas Day we had a quieter day, and that was very, very nice.
Nice.
And then we went away for a little while, and so it was a lovely time.
Oh, very nice. What was your Christmas like? And tell me tonight, what would you like to know about your relationship? Let me know. 13 12 83. Look, maybe you found it not quite so happy and cheery over Christmas, and you'd like some advice. We can certainly do that tonight. Melissa is here for you. Maybe your relationship just didn't connect over Christmas, and you need a bit of help. 13 12 83. That's what you're here for, right?
Absolutely, and I look forward to hearing your calls and am open to your questions.
All right, making a difference in community, one relationship at a time is what Melissa is all about. So, how did you meet your partner? The story behind how you met would be nice to know too. 13 12 83. Or maybe you're in a marriage, but you're lonely. I mean, that happens too, doesn't it?
That can be very, very, very common.
Yeah.
Yeah, loneliness in a relationship can sometimes be more difficult than not being in a relationship.
Yeah.
To actually be with somebody and feel lonely. And that experience can overwhelm many, but if anybody has something that they'd like to ask me about, even in relation to that, I'm hoping to point people in the right direction.
Yeah. And what can you not go without when it comes to your partner? I'd like to know that. Maybe it's just your partner. I know that's certainly the case in a lot of relationships, isn't it?
The absence of a partner can be quite stirring. Even when partners are distant, have gone away or separate from each other for a little while, it can really stir up some old emotions or emotions we're not even aware of. So having your partner present, yes, David, is very important.
Yeah, it is important, isn't it? What can you not go without when it comes to your partner? We'd like to start the conversation with you tonight about relationships. We're just a phone call away right now, 13 12 83. To talk relationships. What are some of the more frequently asked questions when you're actually in couples counselling?
How do we stop our arguments?
Okay. Arguments is pretty top of mind, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. People don't want to argue. It creates a lot of distress and we want to get along and arguments can be perceived as a bad thing. And what I always say is, arguments are going to happen because you are dealing with someone different to you. We're not in the same skin. We're in a different skin, been shaped psychologically differently. Lots of different things have influenced how you come into a relationship. And so it's important to be able to negotiate how you fight because fighting's going to happen.
Okay. Now, you are going to fight, but it's about fighting fair, isn't it?
That's right. And there are a lot of factors involved in that. And I think that smart couples or couples who want to have relationships with longevity learn that you have to understand each other and you have to understand what sparks the other person off. Sometimes it can be that one key thing. What I've learnt for many of us, there can be that one thread. And if you look at all your arguments, it can often be about the same underlying issue. When couples can get to understand what that underlying issue is for their partner, it can be very rewarding in terms of cutting arguments off.
Is that the main reason relationships break up, you think?
Yeah, I think it gets very, very distressing. I mean, sometimes it can be the other way that people don't argue at all.
Yeah.
People lose contact
simply
with
walk
each
away.
other. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so that's when people talk about having disconnection and not being able to relate to each other anymore. So that can be very common as well.
Most therapists say the reasons relationships fail are money, sex, and communication.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd add to that kids and mess.
Kids, yeah, and mess.
Mess.
Yeah, simply not cleaning up after yourself.
Yeah, couples argue a lot about mess.
You squeeze the toothpaste from the wrong end. Or something like that.
Right. Can be the biggest argument, but it can be something that, quite often we can feel like if our partner keeps not picking up the towels, it means I'm not important to you. You know, and so it can be subtle little messages like that. And your partner's not thinking that.
No.
Your partner's just not hanging up the towel.
Just not hanging it up.
That's
simple.
right.
Yeah.
But it can really spark some. So if
Wow.
couples can get to have some dialogue about that, it can make a big difference.
All right, 13 12 83, if there are questions you have. Why are there so many relationships in trouble? It just seems that way for so many people these days. Are we
Well-
too eager to give up? Swipe left, swipe right, whatever it is.
Well, I think that those factors
Move
do come
on.
into it. Yeah, I think that we are creating a society where you can sort of take someone back like you do at the shops, and I know that is a very broad...
lay-by.
Yeah.
Lay-by.
It's a broad statement to make,
No,
but I think we are starting to become, a society that, we have to remember that people are not disposable.
Yeah,
You know?
okay. Questions, 13 12 83. 13 12 83. I'm just trying to think. Lack of understanding about our boundaries would be another, wouldn't it? We sort of set a rule that, I like to do this at this time. And if you suddenly interrupt that with the partner, that can be a problem.
Boundaries is such an important subject when you're talking about relationships because as soon as we can feel like our boundaries are being overstepped, we can either withdraw or we go in and fight. And so it's a very, very important thing around boundaries, taking care of yourself, being aware of what you like and what you don't like, and being able to relay that to your partner, to your family. I mean, I make reference to your partner. This really applies to anywhere,
Anybody. Yeah.
It's great for children to learn good boundaries because learning good boundaries is really going to set them up for their adult life.
Yeah. Is it sometimes good just to simply take some time apart?
Yeah, I think some couples do need to take some time apart, particularly depending on what kind of style they are in the relationship. I've talked before about the island and the wave and the anchor,
Remind us once again, because somebody might have missed that over the
Yeah,
New
so
Year.
the island is more kind of the person in a relationship that needs their own space. They might be somebody that doesn't talk a lot or openly or easily. Doesn't mean that they don't like talking, but it's not the most easiest place for them, relationships, It's not easy for them to move in and out of relationships. So sometimes they just need to take some time out. And then we have the wave, and the wave is somebody who likes lots of contact, likes to have their partner there to soothe them and help them feel better, whereas an island more self-soothes. And the wave is the type that will put their hands up and say, I'm here, I need you to notice me, be with me, be with me, be with me.
Yes.
So you can already hear when you can put an island and a wave together that you can get those kind of differences. And these are very broad in terms of attachment styles, but these styles, when understood, and interesting that you're bringing it up tonight, David, because we have the book Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin to give away tonight.
All right, let's do it. So somebody will receive that. One of our callers tonight on Open Line talking about relationships will get the copy of that book.
They absolutely will.
13 12 83, the telephone number. And speaking of Stan Tatkin, we'll get to him very, very soon. What about double standards in a relationship too? It's all right for me to do it, but hang on. I don't want you to do it. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, my mum used to say all the time. Hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
That's going to create problems.
Yes. Double standards don't work, do they?
No, double standards don't work. And unless you're a couple that can negotiate it. If I've got a double standard and you've got a double standard and we can work together on it, some couples can.
Together.
That's right.
Yeah,
some couples can work it out, but generally it doesn't go so well.
I know of one couple that go separate and off with other partners and then come back and they're happy together. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, many people.
If they're happy.
That's right. Many people can negotiate open relationships, but I do think it takes a lot of maturity to be able to do that.
Very mature.
Yes, very.
I think they're very mature.
Yeah.
I find it different for me, but it's something that takes a lot of maturity.
And becoming more common.
It is becoming more common, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 13 12 83. Love to hear from you tonight. We are talking relationships. It's Melissa Ferrari and David Pryor with you.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
We're talking relationships here on a Tuesday night on Talking Lifestyle. Well, people often say no one truly understands your relationship to comment on it other than yourself and your partner. Now, whilst this may be true, it doesn't necessarily mean that advice from an expert won't help you view your relationship from a different perspective. Now, I'm sure on at least one occasion you've often wondered, what on earth is going through your partner's mind? How do I know if they're even happy? Well, we've been lucky enough to be joined by clinician, researcher, teacher and developer of a psychobiological approach to couple therapy, Dr. Stan Tatkin. And he wants to talk about ways with you right now in which you can help build a secure relationship. Melissa?
Hi, Stan. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Hi, Melissa. Hi, David.
Hi.
David. How are you doing?
So I have the fortunate experience of being in training with Dr. Stan Tatkin in the psychobiological approach to couple therapy, and he has said yes today to coming on the show. So, Stan, my first question, and a question that is for many, is you've recently did a TEDx talk on this. Why can relationships be so difficult?
And you want the answer to that question?
Where do you start?
I only had 10 minutes for that one. I think relationships are difficult because people are difficult. People are difficult. We kind of come to the table that way, and it has to do with the way our brains work. We tend to have what's called a negativity bias in the brain from birth. And because of that, we tend to be a little more tilted toward war than love. And this serves an evolutionary purpose and a survival purpose. We have to remember where we're hurt or where a danger or threat is, so we avoid it. And that can be true even with the people that we love, our children, our spouses, our friends. And so this is a big part of what makes us difficult. There's actually a whole host of challenges when dealing with human-to-human interactions, especially the love relationship. And as I say in the TED Talk, a lot of this has to do with issues around memory, communication, and perception. And as you know, Melissa, we're dealing with two nervous systems interacting at lightning speeds. And people don't really realize that this is so. And because of that, we are pretty much automatic and reflexive when we are interacting with another person.
And so really it's like our nervous systems are activated when in an argument, and that is why we can tend to misread each other.
Well, yes, and we're misreading each other all the time. We're making mistakes all the time, but we have a tolerance for that when we're feeling good. When we're not feeling good, we lose that tolerance. And as we get more and more excited not in a good way, or threatened rather, we make so many more misappraisals and mistakes in perception, memory, and communication. It's a wonder we ever get along at all.
So there's a lot of misattunements going on there along the way. And so, Stan, what are some of your thoughts or suggestions on how to repair when we misread our partner or our nervous systems are fighting or activated? What can you suggest that helps?
Well, one thing we always recommend is to lead with relief before defending yourself, changing the topic, adding another topic to the argument, anything like that. If your partner is upset, hurt, injured, misunderstood, whatever, that the first thing out of your mouth or the thing that you do is to relieve your partner. And this is not about politeness. It has to do with biology, and it's just the smart way to go. So rather than delay when you're feeling hurt, I immediately repair and I say, I am so sorry, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Hopefully I do. And then I relieve you with the knowledge that I'm a friendly and that I understand what your perception is. Only then can I really talk about anything else after I see relief on your face. So that's one, lead with relief. The other is that people really need to be face-to-face, eye-to-eye, in relatively close proximity. And the reason for this is that we're visual animals, and even though we can manage ourselves and manage each other through voice, often this is called prosody, the sing-songing tone of the voice, and touch, we really need the eyes to be there, and it has to be dead on, straight ahead of us, not to the side. So that's the other thing I recommend, is that people, when things start to get rough, and you're driving in the car, pull over, you're walking, sit down, look at each other, and at relatively close distances. And that's the way to do it. So lead with relief, do that. And the other thing I think is really important, and this is lost on most people, is that the only way we ever get anything done, the only way we ever influence another person, is by taking care of them at the same time we take care of ourselves. So an example of that would be, Melissa, I know what worries you about me, and I'll name those things, and you're right, you're absolutely right, and you have reason to worry about those things, and I'm really sorry, I'm going to be very careful not to do that, and this is what I'm worried about, okay?
Yeah.
So, I know what you want, I know what your interests are, and I'm going to tell you that here's what I want. This is done in negotiations, but that technique, that skill of negotiating, isn't really brought to the love relationship, and that's where it needs to be.
So you're really talking about, Stan, there, bringing a different kind of consciousness to a relationship and how you relate to each other, and bringing in all of those things and being aware of being up close. We fall in love more up close rather than afar, and I know that you talk a lot about that. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on there, how up close is better than being far from our partner or away from our partner?
Well, it has to do with our eyes and the way, and also the way vision is processed in the brain. At long distances, relatively long distances, we use a different visual system that is basically sizing up gross physical anatomy. And that's really good for determining whether the person who's coming towards you or is across the room is safe or not. You may want to move to another part of the room if they're not. Or if they're attractive. And if they're attractive, you're going to move closer. And as you move closer, you switch to a different visual system that trains on the face, the small muscle movements of the face and the pupils. That is a different animal when we get that close. And when we do, we start to do something called interactive regulation or co-regulation. We start to actually manage each other's nervous systems live because we're in close proximity.
And Stan, when you talk about being attractive or attraction with your partner, you're not talking about blonde hair, blue eyes, long legs, short legs, anything like that. You're actually talking about being mindful of being attractive to our partner and also using our face and our facial expressions to do that, yeah?
Yes, although if you're from a distance and you're meeting somebody at a party, it is going to be whatever lures you on a physical level that's going to make you want to cross the room and go there. And unfortunately, as we get older, that's less the case. I don't know if anybody wants to come near me from afar because I'm old and fat and bald. But when you get closer to me, you can see my face and you can see my facial expressions. You can also smell me. You can hear my voice and also detect, how my face moves and whether I'm honest or not. And this is how we fall in love. So we have a saying, love is up close and lust is at a distance. And that's because of the way the brain works.
And so, Stan, can you say a little bit about how we are shaped psychologically through our environment and how we grow up and how that affects us in terms of our attachment system and how we may choose a partner or who we end up with? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, we all come from somewhere. We have a history. You read the book at the end, right? You always start from the beginning. The same with us. We have a developmental trajectory starting from the very beginning. Attachment just means safety and security with the most important figures of our lives. And in the beginning, it's usually mother. Sometimes it's mother and father. But it is that person or persons upon whom we depend on for life. And that relationship feels secure to us subjectively depending on several factors. One, the availability of the parent, both emotionally and physically, the amount of resources that parent has to spend attending to us, the mental health of that caregiver, all sorts of things. And in a secure environment, the relationships come first. That's the culture that most likely will give rise to a secure baby. Relationships come first before performance or appearance, and before the need for parents to have their child take care of them. So this child is secure because they can move away from the caregiver or toward without consequences. And that creates for them what's Bowlby called, John Bowlby, a secure base. Now, if you have that going through life, and since life has lots of bumps and turns, you may not be able to stay that way, but let's say you can, you're going to be less afraid in relationships about depending on another person, committing, than somebody who is less secure in their life. So less secure would be you come from a family culture where relationships are not the most important thing, but let's say self-care, independence, performance, appearance, other values are more important. You might be afraid when you are in an adult relationship, if you have not corrected that, of having yourself taken or your stuff taken, and your autonomy, usurped. You may be afraid of all of those things, and that may be a problem in relationship. Or you could be insecure, again, in a family where relationships were not the most important thing, but you were encouraged to take care of at least one parent's emotional state, and that parent wanted you to stay young and dependent. In an adult relationship, you could fear abandonment, rejection, punishment, and that could cause problems in the relationship as well.
Absolutely. Now, Stan has a fantastic book called Wired for Love, and I know I talk about that book a lot on air. Anyone that listens knows that I do mention it a lot. And in that book, it talks about the different attachment styles, the wave, the island, and the anchor. So what Stan's talking about there and bringing that a little bit alive. So, Stan, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I appreciate it very, very, very much. And I know that there are a lot of therapists, psychologists and counsellors listening. And Stan is actually in Melbourne, July next year. He's here from July 5th until about the 24th. And he's running the psychobiological approach to couple therapy training. So if there are any therapists interested in doing that, you can go to the Australian Psychological Society website and all the information is there. Thank you so much for that, Stan. Loved having you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Yeah, what an amazing chat. What an amazing fellow.
He's very, very amazing, and I've had the privilege of sitting in the room with him many, many times, and every time I hear or I interview him or I talk to him, I really, really learn something new. And I think that, what Stan talked about tonight, things like he said that there's nothing more difficult than another person. Not feeling good, we can lose our tolerance.
Yeah, very much.
And when
we
don't, when it's a good day and our partner can do something, we can feel like, we can let it go today. But on another day, it can really spark off that old system or something from the past or something that reminds you of something that doesn't feel very good. And I think that Stan articulated that so beautifully tonight. Now, his training was mentioned there. It's actually this year. Okay, it's not next year. Yeah, so
July, wasn't it?
It's in July this year.
And it's that time of the year where we sort of go, 2017.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it'll be with on the website of the Australian Psychological Society, and if you just do a search on Stan Tatkin or the psychobiological approach to couple therapy, all the information's there, because I know a lot of therapists are listening.
All right, 13 12 83. We'd love to hear from you tonight. Talking relationships. It's Melissa Ferrari and David Pryor with you. 13 12 83. The telephone number. Thirteen 12 83, our telephone number for your calls tonight. Talking relationships.
A Talking Lifestyle tennis update. Thanks to Apia Health Insurance, designed for over 50s. Call 13 50 50. And Kia, home of Australia's best 7-year warranty.
Today at the Apia International Tennis Tournament, Australian teenager Alex de Minaur has played the game of his life at the Apia International, upsetting top 50 player Benoit Paire. Is that how it's pronounced? Benoit Paire. That's to claim his maiden ATP Tour win, ranked 287 places below the world 40... Hang on. Hold the mouse. Okay. Below the world number 45, de Minaur showed why he was rated number one of the best, the country's brightest prospects for the future, outlasting the Frenchman 6-3, 3-6, 7-6, 1. On Tuesday night, which is tonight, at Sydney Olympic Park Tennis Centre. There we go. That's the very best that I can do for the tennis update. Okay, everything's moving all over. Look, relationships. How do you deal with and how do you stop the dramas? It's easy to sort of ask that, but how do you put it into practice?
Well, I think after listening to what Dr. Stan Tatkin had to say, it's understanding that it's two nervous systems that are fighting. And so while the issue is important, while it be, the kids, mess, sex, all of those things that people argue about, that understanding that when two nervous systems are firing, we can start to get heated up, get upset, get enraged and all of those things, or we can do the opposite, decide to withdraw when it's not a decision, it's actually in the body experience, and what we call more go into a more of a collapsed kind of state where you give up fighting. So from what I understand in working with couples and what I find works so beautifully and really, really is something that creates change is to understand the two of you together, that it's two people while they're arguing or fighting and there's drama, that it's actually two nervous systems that are interlocked together. And so there's something else going on. So if you can start to read your partner a little bit better, when they are slouched.
Yes.
A reading, hey, what's up?
Something's wrong.
And when they are sort of feeling agitated, just checking out what's going on.
Yeah, because you can always tell, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's nowhere near equal, but you can look down at your I can, at the little dog and go, well, I know that she can't talk to me, but I know there's something wrong there.
That's right.
You can do likewise in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Of course. The slumping and not the smile's not there, of course. So it's being observant.
It is, and asking a curious question. Hey, what's up? What's happening?
Yeah.
I noticed you're down today. And it can go very, very far in feeling, particularly with what we were talking about with Stan earlier, that if someone's had a lot of misattunements growing up as a child, they've had a lot of things like, neglect and those kind of things that they bring to a relationship, expecting things to not go so well because it hasn't gone well in the past. If you can have a partner that can attune to that a lot better, you really are going to find that repair and create that secure, safe relationship.
Tell me, that's about creating the love that we want. How do we then keep it? So creating the partner that we want and keeping that partner. How do we go about that?
Well, David, it's not magical. It's really about becoming conscious that if I'm going to get what I want from this relationship, well, I have to take care of my partner. Because when I take care of my partner, I in turn am taking care of me. And so it's really bringing that, passion doesn't just stay alive easily. All of those, all those chemicals that are going through the body and all those hormones, they only last so long.
The rose-coloured glasses get taken off.
That's right. And so really making a decision to recreate it and deciding, I want to be good at this, I want to be successful at being someone's partner, being in relationship. We could put being in relationship at the top of the ladder rather than what we can sometimes put, like success being valued by money and status and things.
Well, that's the thing. You can have success in your career, but it means nothing if you return home to an empty house and an empty heart.
That's right. And I think that, the people that I know that have an enriching life, it's often because they've put relationships first.
Yeah, very much so. Very important. 1312 83, our telephone number. If you have questions about your relationship, we'd love to hear from you on Open Line tonight. Somebody tonight picking up a book too. We're going to give it away to...
How are we going to do that, David?
We'll pick one of our listeners tonight, one of the people that speak to us about their relationship.
Beautiful.
Maybe about chivalry. Is it dead? Love to hear from the ladies tonight. Is chivalry dead these days? When was the last time that your partner actually opened up the door for you? Not just that. I mean, we stepped beyond that, pulled your seat out for you at the dining table or offered you their jacket on a cold night. They're pretty simple things.
And I'd love to hear of people who don't like that. There are some women who don't, some women that don't like that.
I had a supermodel do that one day to me. I opened the door for her. I can open the door myself, thank you very much. Oh, no.
Gee, you were told, David.
I was given my place, I tell you. You can open your own door from here on in, that's for sure. 13 12 83. Yeah, maybe you don't want guys to open up the door. You are perfectly okay with opening your own damn doors. You don't want some other fella. Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. 13 12 83. Love to hear from you tonight. Is chivalry dead? Should it be dead? Is it about time that women took control? Maybe they need to open the door for men. I don't know. In the past, women were confined to the home and relied heavily on their partners to support the family. Nowadays, of course, most women are out there pursuing their careers, working extremely hard for themselves, their families, and their financial future. Well, it's without a doubt, I guess, the connection a child has to their mother is one of the strongest bonds between two people. So we can only assume that it would be very hard for a mum to leave their child at home with a babysitter or a daycare whilst they go out to work. Staying at home that extra day to avoid the tears and tantrums seems like the easier option, but there are only so many sick days in a year, of course. We're joined on Talking Relationships by clinical and forensic psychologist Kirsten Baus to discuss ways in which mothers can actually ease their feelings of guilt as they head out the door of a day. Good evening to you, Kirsten.
Hi, David. Hi, Michelle. How are you going?
Hi, Kirsten. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
You. Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, this subject that I've asked you to come on the show tonight about is one that I think is very, very common in today's society and that I come across quite a lot. And so I wanted to ask you a few questions around how do you think a mother can manage that very common feeling around mother guilt and being a working mum and also wanting to care so deeply for their children. Have you got any thoughts on how to manage that?
Well, I do, for sure. I mean, this is where I spend a lot of my conversations in the therapy room as well, and also in the executive suite in large organisations with women who are powering on in their careers, but yes, are experiencing a heck of a lot of guilt at the same time. And I guess, if I can come back to one or two guiding principles that I always talk about with my clients, and certainly as a professional career person myself, and as a mum, I've got 4 kids. This is something that kind of grounds me, is really being very, very clear about what your values are. Because I think it's very easy to be drawn into, it's very common to feel guilty in so many ways. You know, you feel guilty because you had a cesarean, not a normal birth, or whatever you want to call it. You know, you didn't breastfeed, or you did, or you didn't do it for long enough. You co-slept, or you didn't co-slept. You know, you put them in daycare, you didn't put them in daycare. You know, I mean, it really starts right from the get-go.
And that can be something,
continues.
And that can be something that can be quite overwhelming for mums. Those kind of, the way sometimes mums talk to themselves around, oh gee, I wish I had have done it better. And I think that really does contribute to, you know, how they mother, how they experience themselves. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's funny, you know, I'm 42, my mother is 73. She's very supportive of me working with mums, but there is a part of her that kind of says, what's all the fuss about? And it's really, you know, sparked conversations between her and I, which I think there's a lot of commentary on around nowadays anyway, and that is mothering is very different in this generation. We have the craziest expectations of ourselves that our own mothers just simply didn't have. And now we also have the added, dimension of life of wanting to be successful in our working lives as well. So not only do we want to be these amazing mothers and do lots of stuff and really develop our children so that they fulfill their potential, they almost become like a school project for us. We also want to be as amazing in our working lives as well. So that is a very, very big difference between, you know, mothering now versus mothering.
So, Kirsten, do you think the fact that the way we were mothered is quite different to how mothers do, you know, mother their children today, and that there's something about that old-fashioned kind of, you know, mums when I grew up would just say, go outside and play, whereas now there seems to be such a focus on, I've got to sit with my child and I have to be doing something with them. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, look, there's a couple of things that I think we do, and we just do it way too much. It's just crazy. One is we really overschedule ourselves, or our children, and therefore ourselves. We've got this idea that we have to give them all these a million opportunities for them to fulfill their potential, and without that, we will be really shortchanging them in life. I think the other thing is, because we are quite an attachment-focused generation, and that's really, really valuable, and I'll put it out there that very much I'm an attachment-based therapist, and I think it's a really important thing in the parenting relationship. But people have actually distorted that to mean, well, I must be with my child all the time, and I must have this constant kind of patience and speaking to them about their feelings and developing them all the time. You know, it's just relentless. And the other thing that I think goes on, and I'm often saying this to my children, that I'm not their entertainment. I am not the person, my job as a mum is not to entertain them, whereas I actually think our generation really do believe that that's the case. And if it's not us entertaining them, it's the electronic devices entertaining them. But we don't actually feel very comfortable when our children are bored. We can't ride out their tricky emotions and their meltdowns and all the rest long enough to help them learn that creativity comes from boredom. Now, there are 3 things.
So, Kirsten, you've mentioned something really, really important there. And what you've said is that, and I want to see whether you agree with me, in today's society, it seems like we know a lot more, don't we? Mm-hmm. We know a lot more around psychology. We know more about how kids get affected by different things that happened and how they're shaped psychologically and all of that. So are you saying that it's possible we are beginning to maybe put too much emphasis on that, or it's possibly even being distorted in some way?
absolutely. I mean, despite the fact that I've written a book myself, I have an aversion to I don't encourage my clients to read lots of parenting books, because I think there's so many diverse ways of parenting your child, and it just gets confusing and we get hung up on it, and it's something that we grade ourselves on. We set unrealistic benchmarks. I think there is such a thing as too much knowledge at times, and that we've really lost the art of just coming back to, I don't know, just getting on with it, and not putting so much emphasis and thought and pressure on ourselves. Because the other thing is, not only is that putting pressure on ourselves, but there's a very implicit pressure that it puts on our children as well.
And I think when we are under pressure as parents, they don't get to see that gleam in your eye sometimes that just says, hey, I think you're a great kid, just by you being relaxed enough that, we don't have those kind of pressures. We don't have to worry about things all the time. And I just want to look at you and say, I cherish who you are. And the power of that is just so profound in terms of what that does for a child.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, kids grow up happy and healthy and confident in themselves when they really believe that they're great people just because they're great people, as opposed to they're great because of what they achieve or what they can do, or, those kinds of things. I think we are too achievement-focused ourselves, and we really put that on our children as well.
So, Kirsten, would your advice be just to sort of hang out with our kids?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just be you and be me, and we be together and we do what we do on an everyday kind of basis without making things just so intense or worrisome.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like, I guess, going on a date. If you put all this pressure on, we must connect, we must have this meaningful connection conversation and talk about these amazing things, then it tends to fall flat on its face. And it's the same with our kids. The best conversations tend to just happen in day-to-day life. And really, when I think about it, I've actually come from a really strong child protection background as well as a forensic psych. And when I think of, children who have had to be removed from their parents, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on there that's really not okay. And then when I think of carers who step in and look after these children, and I'm actually, one of my kids is a foster child, what makes a parent is the person who wipes the nose, wipes the tears, wipes the bum,
yep.
Nags a bit, sits down and tries to do homework with them sometimes, because life can get a bit busy, reads some stories to them, runs them around to their friends' birthday parties, hopefully their low-key birthday parties, and generally just also hangs out with them.
So basic.
Parenting. Exactly.
It's so basic, isn't it?
Exactly.
Wow. And Kirsten, it's so refreshing to talk to you, because I really like to, when we're on the program, be helping people to, ease up a little on themselves, and we don't have to take everything so seriously. So, Kirsten, what's your book, just quickly?
My book's called The Conscious Mother. And it's actually a book. It can be quite challenging for people, because it is a book that talks about, I guess, how to understand yourself and the kind of mum that you want to be. So it's not about how to parent. It's nothing at all about do X, Y, and Z with your kids. It's all about who am I, what's important to me, what kind of mum do I want to be, what's my natural strengths, where might I trip up, how can I manage those. So it's very much a personal development thing.
Good on you, Kirsten.
Kirsten, thank you
very much for your time tonight. Okay.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Kirsten Bass. The name of the book again, just to quickly?
The Conscious Parent.
All right, fantastic. And we can Google that, and we'll find the places we can buy that for sure. All right. If you have questions about parenting or about relationships, that is husband and wife or parent-child, give us a call, 1312 83.
On Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
Tuesday nights we talk relationships, whether you're looking for love or you're happily married. Maybe there's something here for you that we can share with you. Relationships certainly happen romantically, but we also have relationships with friends and colleagues at work, parent-child relationships as well. How do we make relationships work? Are you having difficulties with somebody and you'd like to ask for advice right now? 13 12 83. Dial the number. Lines are available. It's David Pryor with relationships counsellor Melissa Ferrari here each and every week on a Tuesday night. And Melissa, we've got an email from Siv, who's a regular listener to 2UA and Talking Lifestyle. And he's a good bloke too, and he's got a genuinely good question here. Hi, Melissa and David. The guest you had on discussing how to deal with negotiating with your partner when you are having an argument or disagreement with each other, he was talking about the nervous system and relieving your partner. What did he mean when he went on to talk about seeing your partner at close proximity to each other? Wouldn't the last thing you'd be wanting to do is look into each other's eyes when you're both arguing? I mean, I can understand doing that in the cold light of day, but I don't see how you do that during some emotional upset or crisis. All the best from Siv. Thank you, Siv. Genuine question. Good question too. Good email.
What a great question. And obviously Siv was listening, because this question
he listens very intently. This
question really reflects a question that I get asked often. So with the,
I mean, if I'm having an argument with you, I don't want to sit there looking at you.
Exactly. And when we're talking about this, we're talking about people who make a conscious decision to be in what is called a secure relationship. And so what a secure relationship is, that the safety and security of the relationship is most important to me. That I won't threaten the existence of the relationship because it doesn't benefit me or it doesn't benefit you. That you are the person that I will always go to when I have news to tell. You won't be the first, second, third or fourth person. So what we're really talking about in terms of talking to Dr. Stan Tatkin, with the couples that he works with and the couples that I work with, we're talking about couples who want to actually create security in the relationship, because security in the relationship is what creates aliveness, passions, longevity, feeling close. And so in terms of your question, Siv, you're right. The first reaction can be to want to leave the room, get in your car, go, not talk to your partner and do all of those kind of things. But what we're talking about here is couples who have decided that they really want to make their relationship work. And so the idea is that being able to look into each other's eyes when you're arguing is so that you don't misread. Dr. Stan Tatkin was talking about that when we have two nervous systems that fight, we tend to misread each other. And so that's why we always say don't fight in the car. You know, don't fight while you're sitting next to each other, because you can't actually read what's going on for the other person. So it's about being able to sit with that person, and it may be after you've gone away, calmed down and come back even, but not adding fuel to the fire, so to speak. Let's just deal with the issue that we have happening here, rather than deal with not being able to see each other and misread what could be going on.
All right. But I see Siv's point of view.
Yep.
Because he's like an old-fashioned fella, I reckon. I'd be much the same. And it'd send a shiver up your spine when the girlfriend comes to you and says, we have to talk. Or boyfriend, we have to talk. I mean, it sort of sends a shiver up your spine. That's when you sit down and you look eye to eye.
Well, your first reaction might be, oh, that scares me when to hear that, because it's threatening to hear that from our partner. And we're talking about little t kind of threat here. It's like, oh, what's going on? Oops, what's happened? What have I done wrong? And so the instant reaction can be to do that, but to be able to be a couple that can actually stick with it, like stick with the process and be face to face and say, okay, let's have this out. I am experiencing that I feel really scared by what you just said. You know, I'm feeling fear, and my reaction is to want to leave the room. My reaction is to want to withdraw. My reaction is to not talk to you for the next 4 or 5 days.
What do you do when you do have somebody in a relationship that slams the door, they're off, and you won't see them for a good couple of hours? Yes, a good couple of days even.
Well, it depends on how you are wired to respond to that.
Yeah.
Some people will chase and call and, you know, feel desperate about it, whereas others might just say, let him or her go and not talk again.
Yeah.
So it really, really does depend on what kind of person you are. But one thing I will say, leaving things for days and days is pretty damaging to relationships. So
it is damaging, isn't it?
repair and go with what Dr. Stan Tatkin said, and that's lead with relief. Go in knowing that if I lead with relief here, I'm going to help you feel better. Not only to help you feel better, but if you feel better, in turn, I will feel better, and then we're in a win-win rather than a win-lose.
More balanced relationship.
That's right.
Yeah, both making it work.
Yeah.
You're showing that you both can make it work. All right, 13 12 83 if you have questions right now. 13 12 83, our open line telephone number. We're talking relationships.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
We're talking relationships Tuesday night. And Melissa Ferrari, David Pryor with you. It really doesn't matter what age you are. Having healthy relationships, socialising, keeping in contact with those you love are vital aspects of any happy lifestyle. Well, a new survey of 1,000 seniors reveals older Aussies are actually flocking online to meet potential partners, but weren't necessarily looking for long-term serious relationships, with 1 in 6 over 50s admitting to having friends with benefits. But it's not all good news. 8 in 10 respondents who were single, separated, divorced or widowed had also experienced loneliness in the past. So what's stopping us getting back on the horse? And should we feel dirty or guilty about it? Linda Kirkman is a sexuality educator from La Trobe University and joins us on Talking Relationships tonight. How you doing, Linda?
Hello. I'm well. Great to talk to you.
You too.
Hi there, Linda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why do you think middle-aged people may be reluctant to give dating another chance?
Oh, you've just read me all this data about why they're all doing it.
Yeah.
Reluctant.
I don't know if they're reluctant, are they?
I think people are really, there's anxiety about how the rules have changed. There's anxiety about making a fool of yourself or the fear of rejection. People get worried about their body image because they don't look like they looked when they were 20, and they worry about being rejected because they're saggy or fat or whatever, unfit. They're worried about erectile function, all of those kind of things. So you're taking a huge kind of emotional risk putting yourself out there.
Oh, of course. Body image. That's one of the points that you made. We really need to get over that, though, don't we?
Oh, we so do. We so do. I think people of all ages are affected by concerns about their body image, and the popular media promotes the ideal of the beautiful, fit-toned young body. And there aren't a lot of examples of older bodies being sexual and clearly having a good time and not caring what it looks like.
So they're being more liberated.
Oh, I reckon there are a lot of people who are liberated.
Yeah.
And don't forget that particularly the baby boomers were sexual revolution, 1960s and 70s, free love, the pill, post-pill, pre-HIV. So a real culture of sexual adventurousness for a lot of people, but also for a lot of people, particularly where, depending on their family background or where they lived, they might have also grown up in very conservative situations and got married and not been and looked from afar at the sexual revolution and seen it as something a bit frightening rather than something that they were going to be part of.
Well, was it love-ins, weren't they? Back in San Francisco, everybody had a love-in.
Yeah.
If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. I love it.
Mind you, there are love-ins happening with people of all ages in all sorts of places now.
Yeah.
But I did my PhD looking at baby boomers in friends with benefits relationships, and I'm a qualitative researcher, so I did interviews. So I wasn't part of that 1,000 people study that you referred to. But I talked to people about what they're doing now as in midlife with their sexuality and relationships. People are having the best sex of their lives. which is great news, really. You know, it gets better. People are... Some people I talk to had been part of the sexual revolution and having a lot of adventures and multiple partners and experimenting with different genders of partners and all kinds of things. And some people who did that in the 70s kind of kept on being open-minded and adventurous, and other people who'd been conservative and got married when they were quite young, maybe because their parents told them that's what was expected, or because it was expected, or they did it to escape from family abuse, whatever it might be, in their midlife are going, okay, I'm going to stop now. I'm not going to just automatically do what I'm told to do by society, that you're going to be heterosexual and monogamous and be married and have children and live in a house with a picket fence and all that stuff. What do I want from a relationship?
Yeah.
And people they go, well, I want the intimacy, I want the sexual pleasure, I want someone to go to dinner or overseas or to the folk festival with, but I don't want to live with someone and be responsible for washing their socks or mending the fuses or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So intimacy and independence has meant that people are having great long-term friends with benefits partners, but not sharing finances, not taking that kind of domestic stuff on him.
Yeah, not even living in the same house, right?
No.
Keeping separate lives.
Which is bound to keep things sexier.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because there's not all that added responsibility and all those things that can sort of bring a relationship down, you know, things like mess and children and all the things that couples tend to argue about. And so what you're talking about there is really keeping things quite sexy.
And less of a routine, because it means if your friend is coming, if you make it an arrangement to see each other, then you can anticipate it and make plans for it and think, oh, what can I do today that's a bit different and exciting? Rather than the mundane, you're in the same bed every night and it's kind of you awake sort of foreplay.
Yeah.
So do you think the generational change and the progressiveness of the world these days encourages elderly people to consider sex more than in a previous time? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that there is. I think that there's this openness around sex and sexuality that's spreading. So people are thinking, oh, hang on, there's no time to lose. I'm older, and maybe I might have felt like I missed out earlier, or I didn't miss out earlier, but I don't want to miss out now. So, yeah, people are being more adventurous and more inclined to try hooking up.
So, Linda, when you did the research, did you tend to notice a theme that there seems to be more permission nowadays?
Yes, yes. Although you are talking to a sex researcher, so... And I'm a baby boomer, so it is my world view. So I may live in a particular bubble. I have to warn you about that.
Okay, well, thanks for the warning.
Certainly, like the people I follow on Facebook, the other sex educators I'm friends with, work with older people. Like, for example, last year in Melbourne, the Council of the Ageing and Alzheimer's Australia had a combined conference, Let's Talk About Sex. And one of as a sex educator from the US, Joan Price, who happens to be a friend of mine, was a keynote speaker at that conference. And just the stuff, the things that were presented at that conference were amazing about openness and sexuality and talking about dementia and sexuality and people in nursing homes with disabilities and having their carers organise visits to sex workers and all sorts and ethical dilemmas about if people have lived a certain life before, do they want to live, and yet they're expressing a new interest and desire when they're older. How much do you facilitate that? Do you actually have to ask the person's children for permission to the parent to have sex? That kind of thing.
Yeah, you actually get to a certain point in age, don't you, Linda, where you just sort of say, hang it. I mean, I haven't got that, that hang up that you had when you were in your teens or 20s of what other people think.
Yes, letting go of what other people think it's a great stage of growing up, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda. That has been some great information for us there. We're so lucky to have you on the program tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, you bet. And we'll get you back on real soon, okay, Linda?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Talking lifestyle.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Yeah, I was looking at research that said the happiest couples are the two people who appreciate novelty.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about novelty, isn't it?
Well, novelty is important because the brain likes it. The brain likes novelty, and so it's always searching for something new, as we know.
Fresh.
That's right. We all like that experience of having something fresh and having something new. So doing something novel with your partner can really spice things up.
All right, 13 12 83, our telephone number. If you have a question for Melissa Ferrari right now, we are talking relationships, 13 12 83. Mindfulness in relationships. Let's have a chat about that in a few moments' time. And also a few more things still to come this hour. Sexual intimacy as well. More about that ahead here, Talking Relationships.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
We're talking relationships Tuesday night. David Pryor with Melissa Ferrari. And did you know that mindfulness can actually be an incredible, useful tool in relationships? Be it your everyday relationship with colleagues, friends, or with your partner, of course. It can help you better connect with others and achieve better intimacy with the one that you love. But what is mindfulness and how would it apply to everyday life? Let's ask psychotherapist, educator and workplace trainer Timothea Goddard, who joins us now. Hi, Tim.
Hi, David. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Tim. How are you going? Thank you for coming back on the show.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, let's start with the basics. What is mindfulness and how can we use it to benefit us in everyday settings?
Okay, so mindfulness, I love John Kabat-Zinn's definition of this. He says that mindfulness is a way of paying attention on purpose in the present moment and with some openness and curiosity, which is quite a radical act because often our minds are all over the shop, as we know. Often we're paying attention in a way that's really on automatic pilot. We don't know where our attention's going. We're certainly not paying attention with curiosity. We're really reacting with, all sorts of preconceived ideas. So mindfulness gives us a sense, an ability to be able to step back, notice thoughts, emotions, body sensations, and often make a different choice in how we're going to respond in the moment.
So having control over those more automatic kind of reflexes that we have or automatic ways of being in the world, using mindfulness to sort of be more careful about what we're doing?
Yeah, and actually inhibit our responses. Like, so often we know that we're behaving badly, but how the hell do we stop doing that when it's automatic? We've got these preconceived ideas of how we're going to get our way or get our point across. And mindfulness really is a systematic way of training the body and the mind to sort of get a handle on, wow, I can actually have some say about my behaviour. I can actually inhibit, my usual irritated response with my 3-year-old or my bored response with my partner I've been with for 25 years or whatever. I can actually start behaving differently. This is liberating.
So we can use it to transform painful or negative emotional states.
Definitely. And the first step is not to turn away. We're hardwired to move away from unpleasant stimuli, and this makes real sense. Like, say it's a hot plate and you've got your hand on a hot plate that's burning. You don't want to, let your hand be there and go, oh, smell the burning flesh. You want to absolutely move away from that unpleasant thing really quickly and strongly. That makes perfect sense. But what if it's something that comes up in lots of relationships? Anxiety. How am I being perceived? Shame. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Hostility. Depression. If we're reacting, turning away, trying to get away from these unpleasant emotional states, it's really not very good because we literally set up a fight-flight response in relationship with our own experience. And this is really stressful, and this activity actually revs up our anxiety, revs up our distress.
Right.
So mindfulness offers a systematic way of investigating what's bugging us.
Okay.
To recognise it, to name it, to feel it. And we know the research is really brilliant to even say the words, oh, I'm anxious, I'm angry right now.
and investigate that feeling is profound in terms of digesting that emotion much quicker, regulating it, coming back to a kind of baseline, neutral, like moving out of that state, actually.
So meditating can help a lot with mindfulness, can't it?
Well, I think of mindfulness as the adjective. So there's lots of different sorts of meditation.
Yep.
And mindfulness is a particular kind of meditation that is particularly useful for psychological growth and knowing ourselves better. Lots of meditation is wonderful for just calming ourselves down, which is brilliant. Having being able to move out of stressful states quickly. Mindfulness does that for us, but it really is a process of getting to know our emotions better, our thoughts better, how to work in our relationships better, how to be more responsible. I think, able to respond, responsible.
Tim, a lot of people say I've tried meditating, but I can't. What would you say to a person that says that?
Oh, this is so often. Like, people come to me and say, oh, I've tried this, but I can't do it. And I go, well, I know you can't, because no one can. I've got a little story. My 12-year-old niece was given a surfboard. So we're down at Margaret River, beautiful beach in WA, and she enthusiastically takes the board off. 10 minutes later, she's back. She throws the board down on the ground and says, it didn't work. It doesn't work. And we all just laughed and laughed. And it was like, I think so often people try mindfulness, like they get an app and they do a 5-minute practice and go, I was just bored, or my mind was just really busy, I was really agitated, so it doesn't work. And there is a lot of emphasis on mindfulness at the moment, as if it's just some quick fix, that it can be done in a couple of downloads or a technique to just, get calm straight away. And sadly, no, it is a kind of, you need to kind of work at it.
How would you use it with, say, your partner? Mindfulness with your partner, an intimate partner.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, well, not to get angry with them during an argument. I mean, that's the hardest part, isn't it?
That is the hardest part. Look, can I tell
don't get angry!
I know, and we're patterned to get angry, and we've been doing it for how many years with our, in our families of origin, let alone with this particular partner, the poor soul. Now, I want to offer a little poem in response to your question, David.
Thank you.
This is by Rumi. He wrote in the 13th century, right?
Yeah, lovely.
And he says, I've got a relationship enhancer that is bound to work. Whenever your partner or spouse says something absolutely stupid, let your eyes light up as if they've said something brilliant. So,
gorgeous.
Not that mindfulness is teaching us how to lie or, hoodwink our partner about how we're feeling. But I think so often our reactivity is about taking ourselves so seriously in the moment. And
so lighten up a little.
Yeah, okay.
Lighten up a little, experiment with new behaviours. Like, you've tried the other thing so many times, getting angry.
Yeah. Do something new.
Do something new and actually risk doing something liberating that is actually feels not in your interest in the moment, because you want to get your point across, you want to tell them how they did that and that and that. Where does it lead?
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't work that way.
But I can't actually answer your question very well because...
I think you have. Rumi is perfect.
Beautiful.
Rumi is lovely.
I mean, I couldn't think of a better answer. A poem from Rumi. Just gorgeous.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. I love Rumi.
Where can we go to find out some more information?
Well, Open Ground, which is a company I started about 14 years ago, we've been teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is the gold standard, really, the evidence-based program that John Kabat-Zinn, he was a researcher 35 years ago, started this whole mindfulness business in a secular way for people who weren't interested in a religious aspect, weren't interested in Buddhism. Openground.com.au. You'll find there the most experienced teachers, people who've really dedicated their lives to this process. And they'll be able to really connect with you and help you find out what you want to find out about this mindfulness business.
Wonderful, Tim.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Great. Thanks so much, guys.
And please quote Rumi again.
I will. Next time.
Next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
See you later.
Bye.
Talking lifestyle.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Yeah, you can quote Rumi all night for us here on relationships. All right, 1312 83, the telephone number. We'd love to hear from you.
A Talking Lifestyle tennis update. Thanks to Apia Health Insurance, proudly supporting the Apia International, and Kia, home of Australia's best 7-year warranty.
Craig Gabriel is on the line for an update in the tennis. G'day, mate. How you doing?
David, I'm okay, and we're actually done for the night with the Apia International matches, but how are you doing?
Yeah, mate. Busy. Big day. And no doubt you had a big day as well. You sort of do more than just do the reports on the matches today, don't you?
No, there's way more involved because
Yes.
I'm also wearing a hat as the media director for the tournament. So there's those roles. Then last night with the Fast Four that was held at the International Convention Centre, I was running around over there with players and officials and whatnot, hosting the player party that was also held over there with Rafa Nadal turning up and Svetlana Kuznetsova and Dominic Thiem and so there's a lot going on this week. There really is.
Can I tell you, we talk on a Tuesday night about relationships, okay? And Craig, we want to know tonight your relationship with the tennis stars of the world. What are they like?
They're all really good. I mean, most of them, I'm laughing
decent
because,
people.
Look, they are just people. They are just human beings. They have their moments. You the longer you hang around them and deal with them, you know when to back off and give them space, and then other times that you want to just chat. And there's some of the players that I've developed very close and long time friendships with, and it's very nice. I mean, I've been very fortunate with all that. So. It's not always easy. Everybody has their moments, and the players are no different to anybody else.
Yeah. People are people, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There are players that I have built strong friendships with. I mean, Ivan Lendl is one, we've been pretty close friends for 30 years.
Wow, that's incredible, yeah.
With his wife, who's a very close friend, and his daughters. He and I have toured together and shared rooms and stayed at his house and all that sort of stuff. So, there are people like that. There's somebody like Pat Rafter, who again develops a very good relationship with Stefan Edberg, and Pat Cash and I had an absolute love-hate relationship when he was playing. There were moments when he wouldn't talk to me. I didn't want to even go anywhere near him.
Yeah.
And now, we get on like a house on fire. In fact, I was chatting with him on the phone this afternoon.
Isn't that amazing?
It just happens that way. I mean, Martina Navratilova, another one. So, and I saw Chris Evert not that long ago and picked up where we just left off.
It's incredible, Craig. Amazing, isn't it? But that's what you do, that's your job, isn't it, really? Some of the highlights today, what were they from the tennis, mate? What do you think were the big...
We lost a couple of the big names, and we had some interesting Australian results.
Well, particularly the fellow that's come up from out of nowhere, basically.
Sorry?
Yeah, the Aussie fellow that's sort of come up from, 245th or something he was?
Alex de Minaur is 17 years old, and he'll be 18 next month.
Yeah.
He was ranked 333 coming into the tournament. He was given a wild card, and he scored a very impressive win today over Benoit Paire of France. It was 6-3, 3-6, 7-6. Now, I was first introduced to Alex de Minaur at a Davis Cup tie in Glasgow 2 Septembers ago. He was there with a junior team. Australia was playing Great Britain. And, somebody said to me, keep an eye on this boy, and he's going to be good. And I followed him all last year through juniors, kept an eye on him, and he is a very calm, cool young kid. For his age, he handles himself exceptionally well on the court. He is Australian. His father is Uruguayan. His mother is Spanish. He does train in Spain, in Alicante, and it was an impressive performance that he put in today. So that was, quite an eye opener for a lot of locals who probably wouldn't have known much about him.
I had no idea how to pronounce his name. We got through it, but you've done it ever so beautifully tonight.
Okay, and then there was Jordan Thompson, who did so well in Brisbane. And Thanasi Kokkinakis won the doubles title over there, but unfortunately, I mean, they were going to play each other over here in the first round late this afternoon. But unfortunately, Thanasi had to withdraw with an abdominal strain. He said he's feeling this pretty much after every doubles match they played in Brisbane last week, and Thanasi's been prone to injuries over the last year, so he didn't want to take any risks and as a precaution, had tests and MRIs done, so he's just going to rest. So, and then another Australian, Daria Gavrilova, a former Russian, she lost to Johanna Konta, who's an Australian-born Brit. So there's so many little stories that have been going around with a lot of the matches today. Caroline Wozniacki was a winner. Eugenie Bouchard, who's had an absolute fall from grace as far as her tennis is concerned, seems to be turning things around. And she had a win over number 3 seed Dominika Cibulkova, who was an Australian Open finalist a couple of years ago, and late last year, won the season-ending women's championship, which netted her like $1 million in Singapore. So
incredible.
There was a lot going on today.
You bet. Busy day, and no doubt you'll get some rest, and we'll update again tomorrow night sometime.
Sounds good.
All right. Craig Gabriel, thank you very much, mate. 13 12 83, our telephone number for your questions on relationships tonight.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about losing someone that you love. It's got to be one of the hardest things you go through in regard to relationships. That's next on Talking Relationships. Melissa Ferrari and David Pryor with you tonight. Losing somebody that you love, I mean, it has to be one of the hardest things anyone can go through in life. A parent's job is to protect their child from harm. And when their ability to do that is taken away from them, the heartbreak they must experience would be unbearable. We've been joined on the line today by Sydney Grief and Bereavement Counsellor and owner of Indigo Counselling and Psychotherapy, Kate Wotherspoon. Kate is going to tell us about ways to make this process of grieving just a little easier for yourself and the people around you tonight. Kate, good evening.
Hi, David. How are you?
Good,
Hi.
thank you.
Hi, Kate. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Melissa. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Now, Kate, I'm approaching this a little different than my standard kind of interview because this actually comes from a question from a listener who has actually lost her daughter, and her daughter was in her early 40s. And it's 7-8 years later, and for her, there is still such raw emotions, and she still struggles so much with the grief. So we know that this can be one of the hardest experiences. And so, Kate, what would you say to her in terms of some soothing words or some advice that may help her through?
Goodness. Grief is, it changes your life forever. It's an ongoing thing. So I just wonder whether she has a support system around her, like good friends and family that she can talk to.
So the importance of that is something that can really help in terms of soothing some of those feelings.
Yeah, well, the more you tell your story, because when you're in grief, it's just absolutely devastating and you just feel like you're drowning and nobody can help you in the very beginning. And then it's sort of, somebody is there for you. If you've got, really good friends that you can talk to, really fabulous family that you can talk to, that just makes it so much better for you. You don't feel like you're crazy. And, because sometimes people say to me, I feel crazy. Mm-hmm. And all they're doing is feeling the grief. And, so if you've got someone around you to talk to and actually you have to set up a special person to talk to, really, and make some rules before you talk to them, like boundaries, like you just want that person to sit and listen, or put your arms, their arms around you, or, whatever you want this person to do, just listening, you feel connected to someone and you feel understood. And that might go on for a long time as well.
So that actual physical experience of somebody actually holding you or hugging you can really give that kind of feeling of security and that there is somebody close that can help with those feelings of grief.
Yes, yeah, and a non-judgmental person as well. It really needs to be someone you feel safe with and someone that you trust, that, won't go telling everybody your story and, make up stories and things like that.
So, Kate, often people don't have that close person. So this is where a therapist would come in terms of creating that kind of environment to work through those feelings. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes it's really difficult for people to come in too, because I have people ring, maybe when the person died, and then I'll hear from them again 6 months later, and they, just have that 10-minute free call that I have, and then maybe even 6 or 7 months after that, they actually make the appointment to come in.
So I guess the grief never ends, does it?
No, because in the beginning, you really, really feel like you're drowning. And it's really overwhelming. And for some people, it is too overwhelming. So for these people, they really need to set time aside to grieve. So you can look through, by themselves, they usually do. And during this time, you might like just 15 minutes, because people like to be strong. We don't do emotions really well at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they might like to set, 15 minutes aside where they can sit and look at photos of their loved one, or remember funny stories or different stories, that about their life and who they've connected with. And
so some reflection space about that person's life and your connection to them, and actually make that room to grieve.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
You are so welcome.
And
Melissa.
I hope that you have been able to help our listener, and you've helped me out a little bit by answering her questions. So thank you so much. And Kate, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on my website, actually, www.indigotherapies.com.au.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kate, so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, bye.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
All right, so indigotherapies.com.au is the website if you need to find out some more information. Certainly type that into your browser and you'll be able to find some more info. Thank you for doing that, because, it is tough, isn't it? When we lose partners or lose friends, it's a tough time in life. But
it certainly is.
We do move on, don't we?
Certainly is.
But of course there's always time for reflection, and do that. All right, 13 12 83, our telephone number. We are talking relationships here with Melissa Ferrari tonight. A little bit of time left. Quick, you got to dial the number if you've got a question, all right? 13 12 83.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
We're talking relationships here on a Tuesday night. Melissa Ferrari, David Pryor with you.
Sexual intimacy can sometimes be an issue for couples at the best of times.
Yeah, the daily grind can often interfere with a couple's opportunity to find time alone, away from work and the kids, of course.
Now, struggling with sexual dysfunction and being too embarrassed to talk about it can be difficult.
Absolutely. Well, it's estimated that around 100 million men in the world have some form of erectile dysfunction, and it's affecting around 1 million men of all ages here in Australia.
And tonight we are joined by Sydney sex therapist Tanya Cohens to talk about the impact of sexual dysfunction and what it can have on relationships. Welcome to you, Tanya.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Wonderful to have you here. So, Tanya, what do you find are the common issues that come up that you find in relationships to do with sexual dysfunction? What's some of the common difficulties?
I think the major one is that people stop talking about and stop having sex because it got a bit too difficult somewhere along the line.
Right.
Is that because we're all time poor these days?
No, well, I think there's a couple of things.
Yeah.
People forget they know now to put work into their relationships, and they're good at doing things like date nights and talking to each other, but they forget that their intimate life also requires work and prioritising.
So what you're saying is there, Tanya, that what you are finding, and I also find that's very, very common, is that people aren't putting their sexual relationship, intimacy and their sexual connection, aren't putting that at somewhere up the top of the list?
Exactly. But they're hoping that it's going to work exactly the same way they see it in the movies.
Okay, so what effects can that have if you ignore that for too long?
I find that people stop talking to each other, and for me, the purpose of intimacy in the purpose of sex in a long-term relationship is to foster intimacy. So it creates the stretch between people, it creates the closeness, it creates the desire and the willingness to meet each other in difficult situations.
Okay, so in terms of with erectile dysfunction, that can be psychological as well as physical. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can. So it's there are some statistics out that say that 40% of men in their 40s, 50% of men in their 50s, 60% of men in their 60s, etc., will experience erectile dysfunction at some point. Those last three words are the important ones. It doesn't mean you get it forever, but you might encounter that in your travels.
And so sometimes it can be something psychological and sometimes it can be something physical?
That's right. Sometimes it can be normal softening with age, or it's difficult today, but tomorrow it's absolutely fine, and that can come about with aging. Sometimes it's psychological if it's related to stress or anxiety, or if your partner has something that's not going well. So erectile dysfunction is often comorbid with vaginismus or dyspareunia on the female side of things.
Okay, so Tanya, when do you know that it's something more serious, that it's not just something that does happen, because those percentages are pretty high, and so it means it can happen, but it doesn't have to always be something serious. There's stress and all of that. When do you know that it really needs some attention?
When it's impacting your sex life and your relationship. So if suddenly we're having less sex, if suddenly we're not talking about it anymore, if suddenly we're getting a bit touchy with each other and we're not feeling as connected, I think these are the indicators that it's time to go and have a chat to somebody.
Yeah, physically, of course, we can always talk to our GP, can't we?
Yeah, but erectile dysfunction's not always fixed up with a little blue pill.
No, that's right.
Yeah, people think that that's what will give them an erection, but actually that cuts off the signal for the erection to go down.
Right.
They get the erection all on their own.
So sometimes even if a couple are able to work on the issue together through conversation or physically, it can fix the problem and things can then be okay again.
Yeah, it really can. Sometimes it's about people's expectations. A lot of the time, the person's partner might be thinking, oh my goodness, you don't think that I'm sexy enough because you can't get it up, or you're not lasting long, or those sort of things. So they're having the narrative in their head and they're putting the responsibility all on their plate. And we have what I call the naked awkward moment, which is the moment where things don't go too well, we're naked, we don't know what to say, there's a few tumbleweeds rolling across the scene, and nobody wants to have another one of those anytime soon.
And it not only puts pressure on the female, it also puts a lot more pressure then back on the male.
Absolutely. So next time, it's like getting into bed with a backpack full of worries on.
Yeah.
Really quite alarming.
And I know what I observe with it, Tanya, is that the when it becomes a shared experience, like a shared problem, and it's something that we both work on, it really does have a lot more of a successful result in terms of fixing the problem.
You're 100% right. I get couples to do what I call fallback planning, and to answer the question, what if I lose my erection? And give them some suggestions like, well, we could shake hands and say, I'll see you here tomorrow. Or
That's good.
I could do something that makes your eyes roll back in your head. Or we could have a shower together. Or we could sit here and chat for a while and see what happens. Or we could play Scrabble, right? Yeah. So they have all of these ideas. So when the awful question pops in, the anxious question, what if I lose my erection? It could be like, oh, well, we're going to play Scrabble tonight. Or maybe we'll have a shower. Or, oh, I know how to do despicable things to her. So it's not so fraught with, I don't know what to do, because you will know the answers because you've talked about them as a team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Takes the pressure off that way too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a shared adventure.
Yeah.
And I always say you can have a lot of fun with a soft penis. It doesn't have to be rock hard for fun.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So Tanya, this is a question that I want to ask you, and we may have you back on the show to explore this a little bit more and discuss it more further. But there's been a lot of writing and a lot of research and a lot of suggestions lately that pornography in young men is affecting erectile dysfunction. What are your thoughts on that?
I have read some research that's saying it's not necessarily, well, it's a couple of things. It's erectile dysfunction, it's also ejaculation. That watching a lot of porn and developing a masturbation style, as our sexual commentator Dan Savage refers to as the death grip, so a very tight grip and a very rapid motion whilst looking at porn for a very long time, that's actually very hard to match when you get intimate with a soft, squishy human being.
Absolutely.
So it can lead to delayed ejaculation or inability to orgasm.
And so that can bring up all kinds of problems between a couple.
Absolutely. Because again, not spoken about. Again, assumptions of, oh my gosh, I'm not sexy enough. And also comparison. Well, you're looking at lots of porn, but you can't get it off with me. Why is that happening?
That's right.
And resentment, and then the person with the ejaculation problems gets very anxious and very shy, and that can contribute to it further. Yeah. It's known that when men are stressed, it makes it faster for them to have an orgasm, and when women are stressed, it takes longer.
It takes longer.
It's fault in the design system.
So there is some truth in what's being written, and more so, I'd say, even in the last 5 years about that. So Tanya, I'd love to have you back on the show at some time to talk further about this. Would you be willing to do that?
I'd love to come back and talk about that. I think porn puts so much pressure on things, and it'd be really good to dispel some myths. Wonderful.
Tanya, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks, Tanya.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank
welcome.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on
adorable.
Talking Lifestyle.
I like her. So we'll get her back on real soon.
We will. We'll have her back on.
Porn is a big part of relationship, isn't it? It's either the partner doesn't like it or, both enjoy porn together or, we'll definitely discuss that in the coming weeks.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, it's been fantastic tonight. Quite a few topics covered tonight there, Melissa.
It's been a big night tonight, David.
You bet.
It's been great.
Just incredible. Big day, as a matter of fact. And we're going to take a look back on the day in a few moments' time with our highlights package. We can find out more about you online, of course, your website.
Yeah, my website's www.melissaferrari.com.au. And if you go there, that leads to all my social media pages as well.
All right. We've got a book still to give away.
We have. We've got two. Wired for Dating.
Too scared to call, I think. Yeah. Wired for Dating. We'll do that. Call us sometime further down the track, all right? 13 12 83. Thank you very much for being here tonight, and we'll speak with you again next week as we talk relationships together. Thanks very much, Melissa.
Thanks.